Hey, how's it going everybody? It's Sketch and welcome back to the channel. And on today's show we're taking a look at BioMetal, a horizontal shoot 'em up developed by Athena and published by Activision in 1993. This one is quite the interesting case, being a competent shooter for the Super Nintendo with some fun game mechanics and a soundtrack that is super hype for a shoot 'em up game. Through its 6 stages, your skills will get put to the test and it's a good time while doing so. The story on this one is also pretty off the wall, so let's get into that real quick. Y'all ready for this? In Galaxy Century 232, the Milky Way has been divided after years of interstellar conflict and the resources are rapidly depleting. The Milky Way Galactic Council sends a fleet of ships to a nearby planet UP-457 to scan for supplies, but it's then deleted by a race of half-machine, half-animal known as the BioMetal. Once the supercomputer calculates the growth of their ranks, the 32-hour deadline is set to stop the spread before it's unstoppable. Pilots Ray and Anita mount up in their Wasp and prepare to annihilate the threat on planet UP-457 and secure whatever bounty is left. Sounds simple enough, right? Gameplay wise, you've got a 2D horizontal shoot 'em up that off top starts throwing enemies of various sizes your way and quickly. You have 3 weapons, being the Vulcan shot, wide shot, and laser beam, all of which can be upgraded 3 times along with homing missiles and cruise missiles. Some weapons will cancel each other out and will reset it to level 1, so when going for power-ups, keep in mind what you're going to grab. The other defense against this mob is your GAM, which is a deployable shield which can be thrown around the screen in all 8 directions while crushing simultaneously, which is great for dealing heavy damage. This element of the gameplay is interesting since it runs on a charge and when it's maxed out can put in some serious work, especially once you get used to how it controls. Throwing the GAMs is crucial to getting through several parts of the game where waves of tougher enemies will be on screen all at once, but this coupled with your weapons will make short work of most adds and majors. The difficulty curve is not too steep, but it does just throw you in there and let you figure out how to play it without much of a tutorial. You have multiple stocks per continue, but once you smoke all of them, you gotta run the whole stage over again since there are no checkpoints. There are spots in this game where not only gunplay has to be the point, but also maneuvering, since there is a good amount of stage hazards, especially towards the end. The final boss fight especially forces you to play aggressive and get in there to hit some of those boss's critical points. So once you get comfortable with the controls and how to maximize your attacks, you'll be able to step to most of what's coming at you no matter what the number. Graphics wise, this is a fairly good looking game with its animation and level designs. It's got a really similar feel to R-Type as far as a design aesthetic, with its anthropomorphic approach, which works out pretty well for this game. You get some interesting boss designs, even though one repeats with a slightly modified attack pattern. Sprites are also fairly large here and have a lot of detail with the line work. They're also varied enough to where you're not seeing too many of the same types repeat from stage to stage, so it's got some variety there. There's a lot of parallax scrolling here, especially in the first couple of levels, and the attention to detail with the elements are pretty tight here too, with some dope shading and layering effects. The levels are all varied here too, which is nice, so that all 6 stages are vibrant with a different color palette for each stage. The biomechanical aesthetic gets more pronounced in the latter half of the game, and those levels look sick, especially the final boss, which takes up most of the screen. The only real drawbacks with everything good this game does is the slowdown. While it's not too bad, but there are spots where the frame rate does chug a bit, and when there's a lot of ads on screens and some of the bigger boss fights and some of the death animations that some are on the Michael Bay levels of explosions will simmer it down a little bit, but luckily not too much. Sound wise is where this gets pretty interesting. Upon starting up the game, aside from the Activision logo, you might notice the 2 Unlimited logo. Yes, that 2 Unlimited. The US and PAL versions of BioMetal have a soundtrack mainly comprised of remixes of their tracks, and it's super hype. It's even more interesting that the original Japanese soundtrack is completely different while also pretty good. This is a rather interesting choice of tunes for a shoot 'em up game, but hey, it works. They even work in the vocalist names at the beginning cutscene when introducing the pilots Ray and Anita, which is a low-key nice touch. Sound effects in general are pretty decent with some nice crunchy audio. It's even got the woo vocal sample popularized in 90s dance tunes when you get a 1-up, so again, sound is pretty hype here. Weapon fire and explosions sound good, but there's a couple of better examples I can think of that have better effects work on the Super Nintendo, but for what's in here, it's not bad at all. Overall, BioMetal is quite the ride in the world of Super Nintendo shoot 'em ups, and it's definitely got its traits that make it stick out amongst its peers. It's got some solid challenge, and the soundtrack, while maybe unconventional, actually works for the vibe and style of gameplay. It can be crushingly difficult in parts too, but once it all clicks, a solid experience is there to be had for those willing to embark. BioMetal gets an 8 out of 10, and this is a fun one to check out however you can. The loose card is still relatively cheap and is absolutely worth picking up for shoot 'em up fans. And I thank you again for checking out this video. If you find these videos helpful, that's awesome. I'm glad you can use it as a resource. Check back often. We'll have more video reviews and commentaries coming up in the future. So until then, stay safe out there. take it easy. I'll see you on the next one.